Dr. Kozyrev in here. He's big on Kozyrev. He found a lot of his papers. Talk about torsion. But where we differ is Dave thinks, ooh, 2012, we all ascend and we right after the sunset, singing Kumbaya, right? And I'm saying, only if we choose it. Only if we choose it. So then the question becomes is how do we let this guy know, this energy pulse, which is completely neutral, it's energy. It can be anything. Energy can be anything. It can be a wave of energy that destabilizes the planet physically. If we decide, you know, we're not happy with the way things are, we want to start over again, that could be what happens. Or if we decide, we like this, you know, we're doing okay, some things suck around here, but I think we're doing better. We're not completely dead, because the Hopis talk about these other cultures that collapsed in these calamities, and they were all completely turned away from spiritual ways, almost completely. We're not like that. Look at this conference, okay? I mean, what is there, 60 people here? You know, I don't know how big this room is. And there's people in all these other rooms, all here to learn, all here to grow, all here to connect with something higher. And these things get bigger and bigger and bigger, in spite of the fact that nobody has any money right now. Okay? And we're all still here. Some of us didn't pay, is he? My best friend's wife, Sean David Gordon's wife. So then I started addressing, okay, so what do they want from us? What is this guy going to ask for? How are we going to make sure that we get the result that we want? And the truth is you have to send a signal back out to the universe. You have to send it back out. You have to create a counterwave. Now, the really cool thing is that time itself is this physical spiraling forward movement of the planets and the stars and the universe and everything in it. So even though we've been in these cycles before, everybody talks about cycles, yeah, 26,000 years ago we had the same alignment with the center of the galaxy. 13,000 years ago we had an opposition alignment with the center of the galaxy. And maybe that's when the Great Flood happened, because that version of mankind was corrupt and they were cloning and they were doing all kinds of things that they shouldn't have been doing. Maybe that's what they chose, but they chose it. The cool thing is that that doesn't happen.
Could be worse then than now?
Huh? Oh yeah, it could be a lot worse. But the thing is they may have chosen that for themselves at that time, but we don't have to make that same choice, because even though that alignment's the same, nothing else is the same. Every other star in this galaxy is in a different position than it was. Every other galaxy is in a different position relative to them, to that, you know, to each other than they were at that time. So even though we have the same choice again, the result is not guaranteed to be the same. So how we choose this, how we decide what we're going to do, and how we're going to counteract this wave. There's certain days that are very powerful. In the book I talk about eclipses and how they create these bizarre effects on electronic instruments. Okay? And that means that there's energy coming into us from this alignment. So we can set our energy back out to the universe on those same days. Now on December 21st, 2010, exactly 2 years before the end of the Mayan calendar, there's a huge eclipse over this entire North America. Okay? It's not a coincidence. Eclipses can happen any day of the year, 365 days.
This December.
This December. So this is an opportunity for us to set the frequency for what's going to happen. In 2012, there's a couple of eclipses. One of them's on May 20th. And that eclipse, it's interesting, Dr. Kalaman talks about how this phase of the calendar, this last phase that we're heading into, that what will happen is we will go into balance. Okay, the East and the West will be balanced. The masculine and feminine will be balanced. The intellectual and the spirit will be balanced. Because right now we're out of balance in all these things. And this eclipse starts off the coast of China. Right off the coast of China, on the Tropic of Cancer. Okay? So what is China if not the East right now? Right? The East is China. It was Japan about 20 years ago, now it's China. It goes all across the Pacific Ocean. And it would be better with graphics, but I don't want to project right here. And the moment of total eclipse, the biggest part of the eclipse is right on the international date line, the exact divider between East and West. And it ends in the West, right in California, in the United States, directly epicenter over Mount Shasta, which is a very sacred spiritual place to all sorts of ancient cultures in this part of the world. That eclipse itself is absolute balance between East and West. That is going to drive the consciousness into balance. 2 weeks after that, there's a Venus transit, and the Mayans marked everything by the Venus transit. The transit of Venus is an eclipse. Venus moves between the Earth and the Sun. happens very rarely. 12 years apart, or 8 years apart, in cycles of about 142 years. So it happened at the beginning of the Yuga cycles, there was a Venus transit, and the beginning of this long time of the Mayan calendar, it's happening at the end. These are opportunities for us to set the intent. So then the question becomes, okay, great, how do you set your intent, right? And I'm looking at different things that are going on, and I see the secret that's out there. The secret is really cool because it brought a lot of people into spiritual thinking that were not thinking along those lines before, right? So it begins to teach them about attraction, or the so-called law of attraction. And that's great, because the problem with the secret is that it's all about selfishness. It's all about getting something for yourself, specifically getting stuff for yourself. I want some stuff, so I'm going to go wish for it. I'm going to go attract it. I'm going to go create it. Now, there's a lot of problems I have with the secret. One of them is that all the people that are on the movie, they're all really successful people, right? Because guess what? Their sole purpose and their life path was compatible with being really successful. But sometimes you come into life to be a cab driver. Maybe that's what you chose before you ever got here. So people that are cab drivers are like, I'm doing all this stuff and I'm still a cab driver. You know, because that's what you chose. And that's the part that the people, that they had good intention, except for the harmonic death guy. But they all had good intention. I'm not going to mention his name, he's in prison where he belongs. But, you know, they're like, well, this is how I did it, so you must be able to do it too. Well, not necessarily. But what you can do is you can find out exactly who you really are. And then once you know who you are and you're honest about who you are, I have to be honest, you know, I have a dark side, you know, it springs up from time to time. I was just listening to Marianne Camarado next door, who's just fabulous. And, you know, we all have this dark side, and most of us, we don't want to admit it. We don't want to go there. We don't want to talk about it. But find out who you really are. And the way to do that is to pick something. Go to some church. Go to yoga. Meditate. Whatever it is. Go to, you know, gong meditations. Go to, do the Eastern Indian chanting. Go to the Aetherius Society. Whatever rings your bell. Because we're so different, we're all going to have different frequencies. You know, for me, I listen to U2. Okay, puts me in my heart. Yeah, I do. I do. You know, I mean, except for Vertigo, I don't listen to that song when I'm there. But it does. It connects me, or even some of the spacey New Age spiritual music that we've all heard. Stephen Halpern is brilliant at creating moods and emotions, evoking emotions. So you find out who you are, and then once you know who you are, who you honestly are, you can start asking the universe for what you want. But the cool thing about this is that, to me, choice is more powerful than attraction. Because attraction is simply, I want, I want, I want, I want. What I'm asking you to do, which will help us all, is to say to the universe, I want something for him. I want something for him. I want something for her. Start thinking about the kind of world you want to live in, the kind of friends you want to have, the kind of family you want to have, the kind of community you want to live in. You know, do you want a community without guns? Maybe that makes you feel safer, it would make me feel safer, but that's a choice everybody gets to make. What kind of a country do you want to live in? What kind of a world do you want to live in? And once we all make that choice and set that out there in our thoughts and our prayers and our meditations, then we're creating the counterwave. Or at least we're sending out the instructions for Quetzalcoatl when he gets here. Now, some things I talk about in the book and the choice are that the Bible says we only need 144,000 souls to accomplish this. And I guess they would be like super souls. Now, at the time that they wrote that, I think there was probably, in the Bible, probably 12 million people on the whole planet, right? There wasn't a lot of people. Whether that number is a percentage or whether it's a real number, I don't know. But I know that Jose Arguelles in 1987 said, we need to have a harmonic convergence. That's what he called it. And most people that are under the age of 30 or 40 have never heard of it. It's pretty much, there's hardly anything on the internet anymore. It's really interesting. There's just like nothing on there about it. What most people don't know is that the harmonic convergence was all about the Mayan calendar. Arguelles decoded the calendar and he said, this is scary. There's a bunch of crap that could happen. We have to find a way to counteract this. So he set this event up and millions of people all over the world participated. Now, I laughed. Look at those hippies. I'm laughing at the hippies, you know. I don't like hippies, but now I am one. I'm a GQ hippie, okay, so. And after that, what happened? Let's see. The Soviet Union fell apart. Okay, that was a good thing. Basically, all the war stopped. We had one war, the Gulf War, and it wasn't, you know, there's no such thing as a good war, but there was far less loss of life in that war than any war in the 20th century, given the scope of the conflict, given how many people were involved in the war. The economy got better. The stock market bubbled up. Okay, that helped that the internet was created, but we got this collective brain called the internet that linked us up. We became a global consciousness, and we were in the global phase of Kalaman's version of the Mayan calendar, the global consciousness phase. Now we're moving to the galactic consciousness phase. The last phase is the universal consciousness phase. So, I don't have a call, I just want to check my time. So, everything got better until about 1999 or 2000. And interestingly, Kalaman predicted that's when we're going to start in this last shaky phase, the galactic underworld, he calls it, where things are going to get a bit more unstable. So in 1999, we fell into a recession. 2000, we fell into a recession. It's not really acknowledged, but we went into a little bit of a recession. Then we had 9/11, we went to war. You know, and remember, you can blame George W. Bush for the war all you want, but we asked for it. We wanted it. Polls were like 80% of us wanted to go kick some butt after 9/11. So keep in mind that we chose it, we asked for it. So we went into this rough phase, this transitional phase, and what's happening now is that all of these institutions that we've become very comfortable with and very used to have become unstable. Monetary system's unstable. It's been built on debt for so long that we're to the point where we can't pay the debts anymore. If we keep going in the spending that we're going on now, in 2012, I think the national debt's going to be $13 trillion. Okay. Now, to give you an idea of how much $1 trillion is, okay, imagine $1 million. Most of us can imagine $1 million, right? You know, we've seen houses for $400,000 or $500,000. We've seen houses, well, not around LA. We've seen, you know, how much, you know, imagine a $500,000 house. You've seen a Ferrari on the street. They're a couple $100,000. So you can imagine spending $1 million, right? You can do it pretty quickly here. Okay, now imagine spending $1 million a day, every day, for 2,700 years. That's $1 trillion. Okay, it's $1 trillion. And we'll be $13 trillion in debt if we keep on this pace. So it's not sustainable. No matter how much value each of you has as a commercial entity, you can't generate that much. Your share of the national debt right now is $44,000. Anybody got that to pay right now? How many of you? A few of you probably. Why am I raising my hand? No. So these things are not going to be sustainable. But the cool thing is that this is not a bad thing. Why is this a bad thing? You know, I think our money's kind of ugly. Let's get some new money. It's all paper money anyway. We have an opportunity to choose how we want to reshape the world that we live in. What kind of a monetary system do we want to have? You know, some people say, well, we shouldn't have money. It's bad. One man's profit is at another man's expense. Well, I don't agree with that. You might be right, but I don't agree with that. My profit is not at your expense if our contract is engaged in honestly. You know, if I say I got a bottle of water here, I paid 50 cents for it, but I want $1 for it. And you're like, I'm really thirsty. Here's $1. That's a fair contract. I haven't taken advantage of you, but I got 50 more cents I can go spend on something else. But you know, if I have this bottle of water and I say, you know, I want $50 for this, and by the way, I, you know, secretly poured salt down your throat about an hour ago while you weren't looking and made you really thirsty, that's a fraudulent contract. I'm tempting you. I'm lying to you. So we have a chance to reform our financial structures. Our government structures, I think, are going to come in conflict. I mean, again, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I have an eye for things. I see things. I notice when the president appears and makes speeches and there's no presidential seal on the podium, which never happens. So what I'm thinking is he already not the president? Are they just playing out something behind the scenes? Are they negotiating the circumstances of his exit?
How long